Mm-hmm.
and a good business, you know. I'd have to tell you the story, what happened, the way he was.
Mm-hmm.
I was a salesman. I got it now. That's something else. I want to tell you what kind of guy he was. And I came to a customer on a Sunday. You know, I couldn't meet him on the week because during the week he goes out from house to house. And all right, I met him Sunday to show him my samples. So he said to me, a Jewish man. So he said to me, "Come, you have to go in a different room now today." I said, "Why?" "All right, my father-in-law is a Shatchin."
You know what a shachin is?
Yeah,
Shatchin.
matchmaker.
A
A
matchmaker.
matchmaker. They do that for money.
For money. So I said, there's a couple coming today. They're going to be, my father introduces them and they get married. I said, okay. So once the door opened, you know, and I hear a voice, I knew it was my cousin Carl.
Ox.
So I didn't say anything. I says, "Ay, schlamassel." I wouldn't have taken him for $1,000,000. But anyway, not because he was a, all right, whatever it is.
Well, you
The
would
story
never marry
was,
him.
the story was he wanted 30,000 marks or 20,000.
Dowry.
The girl only had 20. So it was
Dowry.
the girl didn't have enough money. And he didn't take her. The guy told me afterwards, "Can you imagine this?" And his father-in-law wanted to give the difference, you know, because he made, I don't know how many percentage of the money he made, like commission.
Like
Yeah.
real, you know.
Slavery.
But he
Slavery.
got one afterwards with twice the amount of
He
money.
got it.
Yeah. So what were we going to talk about then? How he came out? Yeah, he
About
didn't
his
come out.
soul.
You see, his two children, he had two beautiful kids. They came with the children transport to Holland,
England? Holland.
and they were adopted by Catholics, but I never found them.
They,
Asked. He Red Cross and whatnot. He could not.
after the war, you tried to trace them.
Yes.
Yeah, couldn't find
And Dad had put down money to get Ox out.
to Ox, and he
He
wouldn't.
couldn't get away from his money in his store and all
Is that
this.
what happened? He could have got out, but he wouldn't
No,
leave.
he wouldn't.
He wouldn't. He thought it, you know, it's disappears
And he was
for
taken- he
years.
was
all his
taken-
Just
money.
like in mining, and they didn't want to come.
Oh, that was a different story.
All right, they made. Yeah, he said they doubled the amount of business they did the year before. Why should they? Nothing else going to happen to them.
So,
So
they're
the
not
Ox
taking
lost
it
their
a
lives
Ox children
because
survived, you think?
Yes.
But they became Catholics.
Yes,
That's the
I
last
know.
you
I
heard.
know that.
That's the last you heard of them.
Yeah, I
Last
know.
year.
So what are you
They're
going
the
to do?
only ones that we didn't get out.
The Ox.
No.
And one of my friends, sometimes I dream at night.
Who's
What was that?
Gretchen Hermann. She was the most charming, the most wonderful pianist from school,
Yeah.
and she was engaged at the time. And in 38, 39 she was.
She-
They didn't correspond.
Yeah.
The Orthodox Jews.
Yeah.
And Dad at the time had given so many affidavits
Right.
that I said she would have to wait a little while. Couldn't.
Yeah.
By the time
Well, listen, how many
Which
cousins?
was-
They're not all my cousins.
She was gone.
perished.
Listen, Bergs, you know, I
She
sent
and
him.
her-
I
her
sent.
fiancé.
That
I can
Bergs.
just see her.
Yeah. So you felt badly that you had. You
So,
feel guilty about it later?
More or less.
You did,
I mean,
yeah.
I couldn't help it.
Listen, there's so many. But you see, in you
You had to
already.
have money to
You
put.
already are the third generation. Because
I tell you of one woman, was my mother's friend and Ilse Blaut's friend. She was, her name was Weiskopf.
Colonel Schweiskopf?
No, Weiskopf. She lived, I was Grimmels Weiskopf.
What does that mean for most white stuff?
But there's another, there was a family, Gentile family, they had about 6, 7 girls. And they all had as white hair as mine. We went to public school together. And I was always thought to be one of the Grimmels. Grimmels Weiskopf.
Oh, I have to tell you a story. You know what happened? This is interesting. In the neighboring town, her picture was in a photographer. Big. You know the story, do you?
Typical Aryan. Yeah, yeah.
The pure Aryan girl. Her.
Now, what was the story you started to say?
From Weiskopf.
Yeah.
This woman had such a heart. She was so fabulous. Ilse, Claude, and Clara lived for a while in her apartment. She must have brought out 300-400 people
300-400?
out of Germany. Anybody who came.
And she didn't have a dime.
She didn't have a dime. She had made, no, a dime I wouldn't say. She had maybe $100 in the bank. $500 the most.
How'd she do it?
She put 3 O's on it.
On her bank book.
On her bank book and on her affidavit, what she gave out.
Is that a $300?
300,000.
And I tell you, the FBI got finally wise too, but they said it was a Jewish guy who interviewed
You know this
her.
for a fact.
I know the woman and I know the whole story.
Yeah,
And I know people who she brought over.
yeah.
And she said she's sorry, she couldn't bring 100 more.
She told the FBI.
Yes. And he closed the books on it. Because she rescued all these people.
Is that a fact? 300. Just all they had to see was that she had money in the bank. That's all she had to do,
You
right?
have
I
to have
had-
money. He
But I'm
had-
saying she didn't
I
have
had-
to put up much money to get them out.
I had not only well,
They
I had
could
a
pay
good
for
job.
themselves to get out. All
They
she,
paid the trip and
yeah, all
everything.
she had to do
So
was to
did-
say.
So did all
Right,
his
you know what
other
all they had to
everybody.
do was say she had money in the bank to
I
support
had a-
them, right?
She had to vouch for them when they come
Right.
to
So
this
she showed
country.
this bank book with
This
300,000.
country wanted.
Didn't you have to send money over?
No, they had the money to get out.
They had,
These people had money.
at
they
that
could
time,
pay
you
for
could
it,
buy your trip yet, you couldn't take money out.
but you could pay for
See,
yourself.
my mother had an aunt and uncle,
Yeah.
and I mean maybe this was later, and that's why it was. They were in Austria, and
They
they were
didn't
very
have money.
wealthy. They were very wealthy people. He owned an importing
Yeah.
company. He used to import silk Persian rugs and things. And anyway, my parents had to put up money to get them out. I don't know. No, I don't
Because
know.
Yeah.
they lost all their money. They had to give
I
it.
guess so. Yeah.
His parents had to
Did he
give
get her out?
Reichsfluchtsteuer
Well,
and all
they
this.
I-
sent money to get
Yes,
her
right.
out,
Yeah.
and then they had to save up more money. It was a matter of a few $100s
Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
That's
days.
a lot of money. So they got
And
her out?
They got her out, and when they sent the money to get him out, he
It was
was
already
taken
taken.
the day before, one day. He missed by one day.
Is this the aunt you wrote the story about?
Yeah.
Well, there are all kinds of things happening to me too.
This Hulda, her name was Hulda Weiskopf.
Yeah. She
was
must have
the
been a
most
character, huh? Was she a character?
remarkable- That's
I
how
had
the
I had
Inselblaus
sent out
did.
affidavits to other two. Berg's sister. Clara had a sister. What was her name? I always talk about her.
But
She,
was the most
she was in
beautiful to me
Seckendorf.
ever.
It was in Seckendorf. Her name was what? Seckendorf?
Something like that. Bella.
No, not Bella. She's in Israel. The most gorgeous girl there was, and I always liked her. And she had 2 kids and a husband. And when I sent the affidavit about, they were already
Gone.
also a week before. They're gone.
A week
already.
before.
Yeah. Then I had another cousin from my mother. They also were disappeared already. They already were gone.
You know, everyone who came here, the cousins, I always had to march and they became citizens.
Yeah.
Took their first
She was
paper
busy.
Oh,
out.
what was that story, right? She
There's
went
a little
before.
There
story.
were people who didn't know any American citizens. They only knew the German refugees who were here. There were some Americans, they went along for money, for $10.
As a
Court.
witness. As a witness.
Be a
to-
To
witness.
support them, yeah.
And the court finally found out, So I went so often, everyone had to march along.
I let her go. I was busy.
Right, it was busy, so I went for it.
All the cousins.
In the morning I had gone with Julius and Sophie,
Yeah.
and I taught Julius, who was the first president, to ask a few questions,
Yeah.
He was really a stupid ass.
He couldn't get it right, huh?
He couldn't hardly speak English. Judge said, you better learn English.
Yeah.
You're a citizen.
And he didn't know what the judge was saying.
He didn't know either. I tell you, it was really
So what happened? The
pathetic.
judge noticed who you were?
No, so in the
I got to
afternoon,
tell you a little story afterwards.
in the afternoon, I had to go with another cousin.
Right. Same judge.
come in Brooklyn to court the same judge. Little guy, I never forget. Forgot his name, was a pretty well-known judge.
Steuer. No.
Nine. So I put a hat on.
Yeah.
First time I went without a hat in the morning.
Yeah.
In the afternoon I was afraid.
Right.
He might think I do it for money.
Right.
So, talk, interview witness and so on. All of a sudden, he stops a minute, looks at me. Didn't I see you before here? In fact, this morning. I said, yes, Your Honor, you did. I said, is there any rules against that?
Uh-huh.
He said, no, if you in bona fide
Yeah.
witness. I said, I certainly am,
Uh-huh.
Your Honor. All right.
You know, that reminds me of the
I almost was in jail for something else, you know
Yeah,
that
comes-
story.
that comes-
We'll get to that in a second. I know that story.
That reminds me, an Italian came also for a citizenship paper, and he asked the
That's a
judge,
joke.
asked him all
Yeah.
those questions,
Yeah.
how citizen we asked that president, he didn't know, me not know, me not know. So he said, and whatever, so the judge said, what, you don't know anything? And how do you want to be a citizen? So the Italian says, can I ask you a question, Your Honor? He says, yes. How many bananas go to a bushel? So the judge says, I don't know. He says, see? You know your business and I know mine. You know that old story.
Yeah, good story. Bananas. So what's tell us a story about with the apartments, right? It was a scheme to find apartments, right?
What?
She was involved with the apartments, remember?
You couldn't find any.
When was this, before the war or after the war?
41 was before the,
Yeah, before we entered the war.
but it was such a
A shortage.
For whom did you want an apartment?
For whom did I want? Papa, Leo.
Oh, I see,
Burger,
that time. Oh, yes,
The
that's
Khans,
a story
who
by
not?
itself. Here, hold that for her.
Betty
Yeah.
Sternberg met a woman
Yeah.
in a Hadassah meeting. Sat next to her. And Betty was living with her parents. You know, we had our parents come over from England. My brother Leo's and Max was in concentration camp, Max Sternberg,
Yeah.
for a while. So, Betty and Bernard lived with them. It really was. And Frida was there. It was really no good. They had 3.5, 4 rooms. And here were the parents, Betty and Bernard,
Mm-hmm.
and a single old maid sister. And Bernard said Frida was very smart, but she put
Was
her
Frida
5
Fuchs?
cents.
Frida Fuchs was
Dr. Fuchs,
what relationship to them?
Ida's sister.
I never realized that. I didn't realize that. Okay.
And Ida had promised her mother,
Yeah.
can never make children promise things.
Yeah.
Ida Sternberg promised her mother she would never, ever leave Frida. Always let her live with her.
I see.
So she was actually married to Frida
You got this
and
story?
not to Max,
Yeah.
Betty's mother.
You got this?
The sister was very brilliant, very
Betty's
dominating.
mother promised her mother that she would always take care of Frida.
Her sister.
Okay.
Betty Sternberg's
Mother.
mother.
Right.
Okay.
Promised
Name
her
was
mother.
Ida.
Mhm.
Promised her mother. She'd
Okay.
take- okay. Go ahead.
And she stuck to it, you know.
Yeah. She always. It's
Came
true.
here,
She did.
Always lived with them. And she actually was the husband, you know. Can't say. Never seen anything like Max was the 5th wheel on the wagon. Max.
Yeah.
Frida put her finger out.
I didn't know that about Frida. Yeah.
Oh, sure. I mean, she was brilliant.
I only saw her when she was old. I never saw her then. Yeah. Go ahead.
Highly intelligent.
I know. PhD. Go ahead, sir.
So
She
nobody had an apartment, so Betty met this woman who was the sister-in-law of Pascal. Pascal owned hundreds of beautiful apartment houses, multi-millionaires built it.
Mm-hmm.
All of Yellowstone Boulevard here,
Mhm.
the house, all belonged to Pascal. Carroll Management was called.
Mm-hmm. Still around.
Of course they're out. They own in Florida, big
Right.
properties, whatnot. So this woman said, I can get you an apartment. But he told her, we live so crowded up and so on. I can get you an apartment. She said, but it costs you $1,000 under the table because we cannot raise
$1,000 in those days?
$1,000. You can't raise the rents, and they are so low.
Mm.
They were low. There was a claim.
Ceiling, yeah, rent ceiling.
So Betty said, we get it together.
Mm-hmm.
But she said it has to be cash.
Right.
So they paid $1,000, got a beautiful apartment, Jackson Heights,
Really got it, yeah, go ahead.
on 35th Avenue.
Right,
One of the Catskills,
right.
beautiful place. So when I heard about it, big mouth that I am,
Yeah.
I knew that Leo Newberger was going to get married.
To Ilsa? This was in
Had no
41?
place to stay.
Yeah,
Had to go in the army.
yeah.
Or came out of the army already, had service, but he later on went overseas.
I know.
So, wait a minute. What's that 38? We lived already 5 years in. It was in 46 during
I
the
thought
war.
so. After the war. Well, what was over in 45?
After the war, when he came back,
Yeah, I
he wanted
thought
to
so.
get married.
Okay, go ahead.
You see, I forgot that we lived 5 years together with my folks.
Right,
Carol was 10 months old and she was 5 years when we moved here.
right.
You were born, you were about 10 months old
Right.
when we moved. 12 months.
What?
Yeah, when we moved here. So it was actually 46.
Right.
So Leo didn't have a place. A girl who worked with me, Jane Engels, Hans, Richard, and Erica,
Yeah.
no place to stay. Boba didn't have an apartment. So I contacted, Betty contacted this Sylvia Kaskell for me.
Mm-hmm.
She says, my sister-in-law is very dependable, just like I. Give you the cash, would you have an apartment? She says, I have one in Kew Garden Hills.
Uh-huh.
We have an empty. That costs only $400.
Uh-huh.
Was an older
Right.
type of. So I called up Boba. Oh, she's marvelous.
Right.
So she said, you would only take the money from me, not from the people in but she didn't even want to know.
Yeah, she trusted you.
Trusted me, and I put it in an envelope,
Right.
$400, I got an apartment. Then I got an apartment for Leo Newberger here in, they still live in the same house.
Right.
In Yellowstone Boulevard, cost him, I know, 500, 600.
Yeah.
And then the Kahns, he came out of the war, have no
Raining
place.
It was ice.
Mhm.
How about you're in the warm here?
Go ahead.
No, that's all right.
So,
You can stay
I got-
leave overnight.
so she came, and I wasn't home one day, and my grandmother, who was in her 80s at the time, high 80s,
Are you recording this? Do you think you get that?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
so I put the money in an envelope. I said, if this woman comes,
Yeah.
she just gets the envelope, don't ask any questions, and leaves. So, one day, they must have thousands of apartments, but they got the money under the table.
1,000.
They are Newberger too.
I know, I just heard. Go ahead.
I mean, they had maybe a right because they really, the rentals were so low, you have no idea.
Yeah.
But it was against the law.
Right.
So one day this whole thing burst. And they were called before the court, and lots of these. And they found out who got apartments lately, and they got first Boba.
They did.
So Boba calls me up.
She got subpoenaed, huh?
She did get a subpoena and she has to talk.
Right.
And she said to the man, I cannot tell you, this woman did it just to do good and help us, and how can I?
Right.
He said, I want that woman.
Wonderful.
That's just the woman I want.
The bag lady.
So Papa called me and
The
cried
bag
on the phone what
lady.
he's
Well,
going
she's
to do.
contempt of court.
Right.
Her cousin tells her,
That's the worst thing.
with all the love and all, if
Yeah.
she's pulled before the grand jury, she has to talk.
Right.
Meanwhile, they got after Richard Kahn
Right. Bag lady.
and Leo,
Right.
and Richard Kahn didn't want to give my name away either, and they put him before the grand jury,
Now what happened to him?
and he had to give my name.
Uh-huh.
So we
Then
went to
I got a subpoena.
Yeah. The bag lady. Did it make the newspapers?
Judge
Sarah first we went to Pascal.
Oh yeah.
That's very
When this
important.
broke,
Yeah.
I went to
Mrs. Pascal.
Sylvia and
I went
her
with her. I
husband.
went with her. You know, to own all those houses.
Yeah.
Dad went with me.
As I go with you.
Of course. Go ahead.
I said, Sylvia, this is what happened.
Yeah.
The people have to give my name,
Yeah.
and I'll be before the judge, and I have to.
Yeah.
Still,
What did Sylvia say?
she said, I've never seen you
Before in my life.
Oh, yeah, I never seen you
Who was
before.
Sylvia? This was the
Her
lady.
husband
This was the
wanted
lady.
Money. That was
She
my-
said that, huh?
She said, I've never seen you before.
I don't know you. I never seen
I
you
don't
before.
know
but-
you.
You're the bag lady. Yeah, they're gonna pin it on you, right?
It will be
Yeah.
your
You
word
believe it?
against
They're gonna pin it on her.
I said to her, now you got it.
Your word against mine.
Oh no. Oh no.
I was
Go ahead.
there.
Now listen
Oh,
to
the
this.
flood.
You get it?
Walk
You
down.
get it?
You walked out.
They're gonna pin
So
it on
I
you.
got a subpoena
Yeah.
to appear.
Right.
And I had on the same floor where we lived on West End Avenue, Esther Schiff.
Right.
you're-
Ben
Well,
Schiff.
no,
Esther
yeah.
and Ben.
Esther
yeah,
and
that's
Ben.
not bad.
Right.
I don't know why we lost track of
General
it in
Building
Florida.
Supply.
I think they're probably divorced by now.
Divorced by
I was
now?
thinking of it at that time.
Yeah.
She was, brilliant then.
She was too smart for it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to Esther. I said, Esther, what I'm going to do is in this case. She says, Betty, she was a lawyer for the Social Security.
She was the head.
Oh yeah.
She was
Yeah.
decided what you're
She
going
says,
to be
but
punished.
Betty,
You did something
you
wrong.
need a criminal lawyer.
Right. Sure.
I can't. She said, however, you are
She
my
knew the guy. She knew
closest
that guy.
friend. She said,
He's my
I
friend.
will find out who
The prosecutor is
the
always.
prosecutor is.
Yeah.
That was her plan.
And she happened to know the man, Fitzpatrick.
She knew the guy.
Yeah.
She knew them all and most of the judges.
Yeah.
She was a bit.
Fitzpatrick.
And she told her
And
what
she
to talk to you.
sent one of her good friends, judge, and she said, this woman lives
So she jeopardized herself by doing
on
that, you
my
know.
floor.
No, she just listened.
We are close friends. She
Yeah.
said, I put not my both hands, I put myself into fire for her.
Yeah.
That she not as much as got a penny out of it, just from the goodness of her heart, wanted
Right.
to help the people. She said, he said, if this is the case,
Yeah.
Never come down.
let her come down. I mean, I had to come down
Right.
and subpoena.
I like to listen to her story.
Take a deposition.
I said, Esther, she said, in this case, she says, I'll come along.
Esther would
If I
come
said,
along with you.
Of course.
Yeah.
And to
She
pay
said,
for it.
I'll come along.
Yeah.
We did not pay for it. We bought her a beautiful handbag. She wouldn't take any money.
All right.
Go ahead.
Esther wouldn't
An
take
alligator handbag. Go ahead.
Bought
That one cost an
At
alligator.
that time, $50.
I know. Go ahead.
So we sit there.
You didn't have to pay for it. You bought an alligator,
I
right?
had to
Go
pay for
ahead.
it.
Patrick looks at me with
Yeah.
sternness, and I sit there like a poor sinner, you know.
Yeah.
There was a girl there typing away everything. He said, look at me, he said, Mrs. Schoen, I want to ask you questions. I want to hear the story from the horse's mouth.
Uh-huh.
Just you tell me how it all happened. And I started to tell him.
Yeah.
Actually started with Ratzke. Remember that? Who lived in Washington Heights in one room. And when I got an apartment for him, he had already gotten one through somebody else. And that's how Papa got, I think, the first one. Whatever.
So you gave him
I
the
told
whole
him
story.
I said, these
Started
people.
crying.
Ratzke actually lived in Holland, underground. Worst conditions for over a year and a half. I came here and I lived in one room.
Right.
And that's how I started to wanted to get apartments for someone.
Right.
You got a little commission anyway.
Yeah. Handbags. Go ahead.
He listened to it all.
Yeah.
Then he looked at me and said, you know, you've done something against the law. You realize that. You broke the law. However, he said, don't ever let it happen again. I'm inclined to believe every word you said.
Mm.
And he let me go.
She looked honest then.
Honest to him.
You didn't
And
have.
Esther,
Yeah.
once in a while Esther put in a word, you know.
Yeah. Right.
When she felt. And without, I mean...
What happened to Caskel?
Oh,
Yeah.
he got into jail for his brother. He put his head... Alfred Caskel was a big shot. He has banks and whatnot.
His brother went for him.
Yeah.
And
He took
this
the rap.
David,
He took the rap.
Sylvia's husband, that he really worked for.
Took the rap.
Alfred,
How long did he
took
get?
the rap.
How much time did he get?
1 year.
At least 1 year
That's all.
in
Yeah.
jail.
Did
And
she get-
afterwards,
Big fine.
she died, Sylvia.
Yeah, you know.
She didn't get anything. She wasn't fined or anything.
Sylvia?
You,
was not
you
in
didn't
jail.
have to testify, did you?
They had my deposition.
Did they use it?
Of course they used it. They
But
used
you didn't have to go
but
personally.
They had 50 other cases
I see.
against them.
Right.
They didn't done it on such a scale.
Right.
But now comes the story. They subpoenaed my grandmother,
Your 80-year-old grandmother?
86-year-old, handed her a subpoena because she had given one envelope to Sylvia Caskel.
Right.
So Dr. Hess wrote that she is an 80-some-odd-year-old woman, had no idea
Right.
what was going on. She was handed an envelope and handed it
Right.
on. So after that, I got terribly sick.
You did.
I had a kidney infection,
Uh-huh.
and he was about 10, 11 months old.
Yeah.
And I was brought to the hospital. I was urine. I was quite a bit. No, I was really, I mean, that happened to me.
Were you close to death? No, it wasn't that bad.
No, but I was quite sick. Really was quite
How long were you in the hospital?
2 weeks. Like you didn't know me anymore after I came
Tell
out.
me about it. It's very interesting. Tell me about that.
You didn't know me.
I was 10 months old.
My tears were coming down. You didn't want to go to me when I came out of the hospital.
What happened exactly?
This kidney thing.
No,
And
wait. When you came out of the hospital and I saw you, I wouldn't come to you.
No.
What did I do? Do you remember?
Run away.
Who did I go to?
Oma, Bina,
Oh, I was still living there.
But of course, we were still living
And you
there.
cried. And you thought I had forgotten you.
And while I was in the hospital, I was supposed to get another subpoena
Uh-huh.
in order to testify right there against him. And then Dr. Hess said that I was in the hospital and absolutely unable to. They dropped it.
Hmm.
And 3 months later, you know, I mean, this excitement and all was too much for my folks too.
Mm-hmm.
You can well imagine for my grandmother, you know,
Mhm.
slapped with subpoenas
Mm-hmm.
on account of me.
Right.
That's the criminal. See, that's now you know what a criminal mother you have.
Right.
So 2 or 3 months later, we decided we have to make
Decision.
a break.
That's when you decided to move.
That's when we decided to move.
That was
We were
what pushed you.
Exactly 14 months old.
That's what pushed you to move.
More or less.
You would have stayed there longer.
No.
Maybe not. I tell you, Carol was so spoiled. Wasn't even funny. She was so hard
I have nothing to
to
say.
manage. No, don't say that. You had it pretty good. My mother was nuts about you. You were treated very nicely.
Okay,
Where was
but-
your room? Where was your room?
We had tremendous.
I know Afina had her room. Where was your room?
We had 9 rooms.
I know.
You two slept together, Carol and you,
In the same room.
in a nice sized bedroom.
Yeah.
Then came ours. We had a connecting bath. And then there came the main bedroom for my parents.
Yeah.
Then we had a a living room as big as this.
I remember
where
the
I
li-
had
I
my
remember the-
concert
I remember the
grand
living
theater.
room. I
That
remember.
was our living room.
And there was a
Then
room
came the
next to it.
same-sized
Yeah, there was
dining room.
Right, that was a dining right.
Every Friday night, we all came together.
I remember that. Sure.
Freddie and Werner.
Enormous,
The kids.
enormous.
And the kids sat were served in the living room. I mean, ours.
Yeah.
I mean, the other. It was, I believe, my mother.
And there was a
cooked.
side room where Dr. Eisenman lived and where Hedwig
No,
lived.
der Herr Heisman war noch längst nicht bei uns.
Oh,
Hedwig came on account of me.
why?
I was sick when I came home from the hospital.
When I was 10 months? That's when
I was-
Hedwig came to take care of you?
Of course.
That was
That's
her.
when
That's her
Hedwig
connection to
started.
the family. How did you get her?
Through the self-help or something.
No
She
kidding.
had just, I mean, she wasn't long in the country yet,
She's
from
gone
England.
now. She was a woman who lived with my
She was in
grandparents.
England. And then,
She
my
died in Israel. I
grandmother
visited
was
before
rather
she
sick.
died.
And when I was getting well again,
Yeah.
she says, well, I guess I'd better leave now. you
Yeah.
know. And they said, no, she should stay.
How long were you sick for? How
My
many months?
grandmother. To recuperate, I had
Yeah.
to go every 3-4 days to have the urine.
So how many months did it take you to get well?
3 months.
So
Then I was
who
ready
took
to move.
who took care of me for those 3 months?
My mother. My God in heaven, you had so many people taking care of you. There came Lotte Röhr. They all fought to take him out. You know. on the street.
But nobody the same. It wasn't
What?
the same person every day.
But you did. So you, as long as you were fed well.
No, I'm just curious. It's
Yeah,
new
my
material. I didn't
mother
notice.
was still in her prime.
Yeah.
My mother was well. And my grandmother had pretty.
You know, listen. You know that he had such.
When did your
long
father
hair.
die?
49. My father. Thank
He
God,
knew me.
he's seen you
You
yet.
wouldn't believe
And he
it.
came once
yeah,
here
yeah.
in the house. I shall never forget.
Oh.
He could hardly make those steps. His heart was bad.
He had a bad heart.
But he seen the house. He was very happy.
Uh-huh. Her
That
father.
porch, once my father was here. He died in 49. Kenny was born 47.
Yeah.
Carol.
So it was 6 months after you left there. No, 8 months after you. Remember, 24 months. 10 months after you moved here, that he died. About right? You had just moved in here.
Died on the bench. I had identified him someplace in the
May.
police.
He died in your mother's arms, right?
My mother's arms on Riverside Drive on the bench.
Hmm.
And
Nobody helped him, right? Wasn't that the story? Your mother called out, help me, and no one helped
yeah,
her?
but he was already.
But I'm saying, wasn't that what happened? People just
But
walked
then,
by?
Then some people came and helped.
Yeah.
They called the police. You know.
But he knew he had a bad heart. That was known, right?
See, he could just
Hmm.
came up here. He had to see the
How old a
house.
man was he when he died?
66.
Young guy. Young guy.
So was that
Yeah? Same age.
And I tell you something, Mr.
Yeah.
It was such a shock to think this guy. And then my mother later was so terrible. That
When was that? When was that it started?
my mother died
58, right?
72.
58 was it? Yeah. When did she come down with it?
She suffered for 18 months. That's so hard.
That's right.
16 months. We had day and night people there. Hedwig. really
Was good, huh? Yeah.
Do you remember when you seen Hedwig in Israel?
Of course. The week before she died.
2 days before.
2 days before she died.
She was in a coma, but I think she
I
recognized
think she
me.
said your name or something. She did say something. Yeah.
That's right on the border of Lebanon.
Right, we visited her.
What's the name of the town?
Naharia.
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 Yeah.
You always see it in the papers.
Right.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The shot, you know, we went out there. Did you go up there to Lebanon, right where the? No?
I didn't go there.
See, because you can go down there. All right.
See down, yeah. So
Anyway,
They could shoot right down to the.
she had it for 18 months. She suffered.
From there on the road.
They could do nothing for her at that time.
on
right?
it, she
They-
had times of
remission.
remit, that's right. Where it was better.
She did.
My
did she-
grandmother died in 54,
of old age. How old was she?
93 years old.
93. Fina lived to. And she was not. She was
She
okay,
was in good
right?
shape.
She had
Good
her
shape,
marbles
right?
together, she was.
You know what? When we were living together,
smart.
she one day she says to me, "Come here, I want to talk to you," because we had an argument, about the kids, you know. I says, what kind of a business, you know? He couldn't say anything. They took care of him, you know. So I wanted to put my 5 cents in it.
Right.
That didn't do any good. So what am I going to do?
Right.
Argue with him? So she called me in and says, Irving, you're a Schlemiel.
Fina said that.
Fina.
Fina. So yeah.
They call that the advocaat.
You do everything your wife says. You're a Schlemiel. You never should do that.
No kidding.
Can you
Show up.
imagine?
Tell her what to do. Don't
No
do
kidding.
anything. She
Can
just-
you beat her?
Don't,
Yeah.
don't always do whatever she wants you to do. Just give it to her.
Imagine. My own grandmother.
Yeah.
So I said, well, what do you want me to do here? You're all against me.
You know,
Ah,
Carol
yeah.
spoke only German up there.
Yeah. You were the only man after
Huh?
you and your father were the only men in the house. The rest were women, right?
Well, I mean,
How many women?
we were 4 generations together.
That's right. That's right.
We were sitting at the breakfast table in the
Fina,
morning.
Emma.
My mother,
Betty.
my
I was
grandmother,
gone.
Carol, and I.
I left the house as fast as possible.
generations.
That's how I
Had
come out.
pictures of that.
Listen,
Sure.
I left as fast as I came. I came late home at night.
Oh, come on, Putzer, don't. Honest to God, you had it so good there.
Revised history.
My mother, she spoiled them.
She spoiled
Yeah,
them.
that's-
You hear
No,
that?
she used to say, really honest to God, she used to say she could talk sometimes easier to him
Mhm.
than to Leo. Although it was the apple of her eye, but she said she could talk easier to Dad.
That was easier to me. You know.
Well, we lived together too and all that.
Mm.
But anyway,
I petted her sometimes.
the Carol was so wild. She jumped on top of the table
Yeah.
and jumped down.
When I was born. When I was born, you mean?
When you were born and all during the time that you were around.
She couldn't take me, could she?
Everybody made such a fuss about him.
Because he was so
But
gorgeous.
she was
Yeah.
always the center of attraction.
Yeah.
Everything that child said was like the Bible, you know.
Mhm.
Can you imagine wie smart die ist? Guck mal, was die jetzt gesagt hat, you know, and she ate it all up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden somebody comes to take her place.
Mm. And a boy, too.
And a boy. And it was too much for her to take.
Mm.
She said afterwards, you know, she really suffered with such jealousy.
Mhm.
Now you see, those stupid people come, they bring him a present.
You didn't bring her anything.
Yeah.
She's saying,
Nothing.
how
She
can you
stood
do
there
a
and
thing like
they
that? I always told her
he's
that.
gorgeous, what
Stay
beautiful
out of it.
eyes, look at his eyelashes.
Mhm.
And she stood there and she did something rough to make up for it, you know.
She was a rough kid, huh?
Very rough.
He had such a beautiful waist, so thick. She sat in it and took the...
A beautiful
I had
what?
A
Vase?
vase
Yeah.
brought from Germany, was like this. Was magnificent piece.
Yeah.
I had it on the piano. I had a big piano cover,
Yeah.
brought a Brückner from Germany.
Yeah.
And that vase had gone to
Through-
St. Louis.
Yeah.
A big,
It was
that
a,
chest
it
here.
was an enormous vase.
This
Yeah.
chest
Downstairs.
had china and everything in it. Was
Yeah.
carefully wrapped, you know,
Right.
from a packet. And I had it on the piano, and once in a rage because she did something and
Yeah.
everybody, she takes the cloth
And pulls it.
and pulls it, and the thing was in thousands.
Oh.
Mm.
But you know what? Why I'm happy that happened.
You hated the vase.
We did. It was from my first fiance.
Ah, did you know that?
No, sure I did.
Sure.
Ah.
He was teaching, he was a fabulous singer, he was teaching vocals. He had opera singers in the Frankfurter
The
Opera,
Megiddo.
the Megiddo. And they had put money together and bought this magnificent piece.
Yeah. It was a Ming
And we were
Dynasty vase.
engaged.
Yeah.
It was an engagement present.
And you were carrying that around with you
Well,
to America?
Well, it was very valuable.
And
It was all you
Carol,
could.
Carol knew that. That's why she took it all.
No,
see.
Carol didn't know it.
Did you ever give me an engagement?
Do you know when she went to
I was your engagement present. What?
when she went to school here? When we moved here, she was
Yeah.
6,
Right.
and Kenny was 14 months.
Right.
How much now? A year, probably.
Yeah. Right. So she was 6. Yeah.
6 and 2 months, whatever.
So?
So she went to school here. And she came home crying at times. They all say I'm not an American. I have a strong accent. She really had English with an accent. because she always translated. She went from one to the other. For my grandmother, for my mother, all she heard was German. So she went, the school had just opened.
175.
170 was junior high actually. They
Yeah.
used it for grade school.
Uh-huh.
And it was convenient, this neighborhood for us. And there was nothing, no apartment houses around.
Wilderness.
Everything in back here.
There was no
You
Yellowstone
could see-
Boulevard.
Yeah, but it was really nice.
Bet it was nice, yeah.
Very beautiful.
We moved to the country.
It was like the suburbs, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there was that Betty, what's her
I
name
told you
here?
that 3 months after we moved here, they changed the zoning law. They were not allowed to put
We all went to
apartment
City
houses.
Hall, we marched, we did everything. Here, the whole neighborhood.
Made no difference.
So
What
you
do
didn't,
we know
you
about
couldn't
it?
have expected any of this. when you
Right.
moved.
No,
The zoning
we
said they
wouldn't
couldn't
have
build
moved.
Not
apartment
whatever.
houses.
The guy who sold us the house, a good friend of ours, and he said, I looked into the zoning laws, and they're perfectly all right. You won't have big houses here.
Mm.
Only 1 and 2 family homes.
Mm.
And
3 months after.
3 months after it was
Got
changed.
shafted.
Wasn't
Yeah.
his,
What do we know about that stuff?
Yeah, but you liked living here, so.
listen, I tell you something. I said right away, people have to live. They can't all live in small houses. There gotta be apartment houses. So let's face it, forget about it. Now you put up a fight, doesn't work, people got to live. The same with the project here. Now
Right.
it's the best thing
Isn't that
that's happened
something?
around here.
Yeah.
Do you know that community house is absolutely magnificent?
Mm-hmm.
The blinds have a day,
Uh-huh.
you know,
What percentage of the project is black now? Do you know?
40%.
That much? No kidding.
And senior citizens.
And it's working out very well. That shows you. It
It
shows
is
you.
so well kept.
They should do an article about that now. They
And-
should.
Do you know that we have a neighbor next door, so full of hate?
Who was that?
He been there.
I don't even remember them. The Israelis, right? Israeli women?
Ah,
I forgot them already. I remember them.
there's a butcher shop here around the corner.
Yeah. Vaguely I remember them.
A real gunner.
I used to march. He marched, that's right, against the
He
project.
had made big
And had the daughter. The daughter
signs.
marched with her.
daughter
That's right.
and the son, keep them out of Forest Hills. And I don't know, terrible. She went from door to door, collect money to keep the project out. She came here on the door.
Yeah.
Mrs. Winder didn't get a penny from me. I came here with empty hands. I wasn't thrown out.
Yeah.
I was accepted. And I know how it feels. I'm very sorry. She never, ever looked at me again. None of her children, except the one boy came to say goodbye. And he came once visiting here and came to the house. She was unbelievable.
Hmm.
Put so much hatred in those kids.
Or once the people we bought it from, a car stopped. I think I told you that story. So I see them start. I was sitting outside.
Summer
Mom.
was their name.
So Mom was sleeping. So as they show at the house, so all of a sudden I see him coming out. So I said, they come to me and said, I know you don't know me, she said, but I was born in this house.
Mhm.
I says, well, what's your name? Someone who used to be. Oh yeah, you're still showing, yeah. Just come in. So I said, wait here and show you look at the house. So and I said, no, I have to sleep. No, let us sleep. So he sat outside. So they talked a little bit of them, I said, well, there's some more. They knew some other sheep.
Hmm.
And then he said, all right, whenever you come to San Francisco,
Is that where they were?
what was he?
That's where they moved to.
What was
Los
it?
Angeles, I think.
Los
Judge.
Angeles.
A judge?
Judge or something like that. It was all right.
You had the card for a long
Yeah, I
time.
had a
Whatever happened to the people who lived 2 doors down? They had a son.
Who?
When I was a kid, where the Hirschfelds bought from. They bought a
Oh.
big house. He played the
Selling.
selling. He played the violin, the kid, I think, didn't he?
Yes.
So you were
Ronnie
friendly-
was his name?
You were as old as he was.
I was friendly with him as a
Ronnie.
kid. Yeah, right? He moved away. They bought a house on some...
She moved
He died.
I know.
to Westchester and he died and she remarried.
I had a beautiful house. I went there once.
Yes.
On a lake.
But
Boated.
Fairfield,
Lot of money.
Connecticut.
Was that where it was? In Fairfield? I remember
Also
going there.
Westchester first.
Fairfield, Connecticut, we were there.
I went there once. He had a beautiful house.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah, insurance
But
company.
he was a small potato.
With a big house.
He came all the time to us until he had our insurance, and he didn't come anymore.
Is that a fact?
He wasn't like at all.
Oh.
But he died.
Because he
Oh,
was
selling you're talking
He
about
was
now.
so calculating, the old one.
The first guy. Yeah.
Yes, selling.
Right.
Hirschfeld's bought from the sellings.
I know.
Yeah, he.
You know what was nice about growing up here? That people stayed in this area.
Yeah.
The same kids I grew up with,
Yes.
and the parents
At
stayed
that
here
time.
for 20
But now
years.
it has all changed.
I know, but I'm saying when I was a kid growing
You had a
up.
fire on the corner of those Koreans?
No, I didn't hear.
That's the
First
second
time
time it changed ownership, I understand. They're not the original people that Richard
They had a
owned.
fire? How bad?
In the Richards?
Yeah.
How bad
When I
was
had
it?
a dozen kids there, when we were away, I seen all of a sudden.
Boarded up
Yeah.
Boarded up?
Yeah.
mattresses, burnt out mattresses on the street.
How is it now? It's okay?
It was last week.
Last week?
He just ate something.
Last week it happened.
They have 6 kids living in that house?